Go ahead.
I would say in a pre-existing event, your first step is to go in and understand what the event is. Then take into consideration that you need to be prepared with staffing, with the necessary aspects that you have to think of holistically, and don't take anything for granted in an event, from security and logistics all the way through to the actual event, what is needed, props, catering, crafty, all these things, your workers, your talent. You have to take all these things into account, and when you're doing an event, there's a formula, and the formulas are all there and available to you as to what the objective of the event is. But the main thing is preparation and time. When you take a shorter period of time to plan something, it is less effective because you don't have time to think of everything that could possibly happen and having a contingency for it. Instead, what you do is you find yourself not having time to figure it out. With us being able to do this event within the TV show, think about it, every location we do is an event.
Yes.
So we have to sit down and budget. We have to sit down and figure out logistically what do we need, how many people we need to do what, and then have a really, really detailed briefing with every stakeholder, every person involved, to ensure that everyone understands their roles and what they're supposed to do. Because too many chiefs in a pot doesn't work. So you have to ensure that you have a production meeting. One of the most effective things in film and TV is production meetings. We have table reads and we have production meetings before we even start shooting. So everyone involved, every camera person, every production coordinator, every talent liaison, every producer, we all have a role. We all understand our roles and we all perfect our roles. So that way the sum of the whole comes to one.
Challenges, I would say traveling, like transportation. I mean, we had great vehicles and things of that nature, but just maneuvering through the country is very, very different because our show is a huge operation. We have tons of moving parts. Like here alone, we just have a designated transportation coordinator because I brought over 50 or so people in, as well as the talent. So having to move, we were in between two hotels, so having to move around the city, and you guys have a lot of traffic all day. We knew it would be challenging coming into it, and just also too, when you think about film and television, it's a three-part process for us. We call it pre-production, production, and post-production. And basically in pre-production, which Sharice and I did on this particular project, we've been working together since probably, I would say, end of August, early September. And, we've been doing pre-production all this time. We did a site visit, in December. So the key is really to be organized and definitely be true to your budget, because you have to manage your resources and things of that nature. So you wind up having to manage a lot of different personalities. You have to manage the creative because, the resources still drive it all, or what have you. So you still have to be able to manage your creative team. They may want to do something that costs $1 million and they only have maybe 10,000, or so. And you have to be able to say, I don't like to say no as a producer. I always like to be able to give them an alternate, we can't do this, but here's what we can do, and still be within the dynamics of our resources. So organization and being able to manage your resources are very, very key.
So
pre-production, production, and post. So basically, in pre-production, that's when we prep. We take the time to prep the project. And production is when principal photography starts. So we're filming throughout production. And post is the process when we start editing the content that you see in a movie theater or on television.
And we start closing up paperwork. We start making sure releases are done.
I would say the number one thing that stands out to me, because I have to think about my team. And I think what was quite interesting and surprising is that I was really prepared to bring my whole entire team, honestly, because sometimes we go to different places, different destinations, and there's no team and there's no gear. We were able to pick up like grip materials and some lighting gear down here, as well as we were able to pick up sound. We were able to pick up ACs, assistant camera operators. We were also able to pick up makeup in here as well. We had a host of PAs. So we were really able to pick up some key people from Trinidad, which I think that's good for producers like us, especially international producers who are coming into a new environment. So I would say that Trinidad is definitely, on its way compared to some of the other, countries that I have been to, in the Caribbean and things of that nature. There's still much more work to do, and I think it is important that we continue the conversations and this wonderful strategic alliance that I feel that we have formed to be able to even help more talent down here who want to be in our business get up to speed and be able to.
So you have parallels.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Those of you that don't know, I actually have a music background. I have a music degree, which I did in Florida Memorial College. Nice. And my music background kind of led me into film and TV. And one of the things you learn in the post-production aspect is clearances. Clearances can be very, very interesting because it's not just the music business side of it, it's being able to capture that. So for us in a production like this, we tend to do some of those clearances prior, and the reason for that is lesson learning, right? You go somewhere and it's a beautiful location, but you see all these paintings that are made by wonderful artists. You listen to these amazing songs that are made by wonderful musicians and composers, yet in the reality of it, they have not come up to contractual agreements amongst themselves and publishing that allows us the opportunity to cleanly license their published work. So what the challenge has been for me, and one of the things that I've seen that I've wanted to be able to work with Music TT as well as CART and the different entities in music here specifically, is to say, hey guys, I love our culture. I love that we go into the studio and we make a great soca song and everybody jumps on the rhythm and all of that. But while you were doing that, and somebody came up with a line here and there, you needed to write down this agreement in place of who owned the mechanical rights, who was the composer, ensure that the music in the background didn't have 8 bars of somebody else's song like Jay-Z, who can sue you for quite a bit. There's so much that you have to think about
risk
when you're and I think
risk.
happens with creators and we're such creative people as Trinidadians. I love that about us, but we don't think about the business. And we don't educate ourselves about the business and understanding that as a creator, if you choose not to educate yourself about the business so that within your creativity you're learning the business as well
and protecting your property, intellectual property,
you need to have a business manager to do so,
right? And
you need to have somebody who has taken the time and the education to go through the back channels to find out what do they need to guide you on, and listen and go through with those guidelines. Because on the flip side, when I'm in my shoes in California and in studios and on award shows, and they're like, okay, we want to get this artist to perform, but the song they're performing isn't cleared for national television, I can't put you on the show.
Right.
I can't
it's
invite
not because
you.
You're not good.
It's not because you're not good. It's because as a team, you have not done the necessary due diligence to clear that material so that me as a network, my colleagues as networks and producers can easily come to you and say, hey, we like that song, we want it on the show, let's go.
When you're coming from the U.S. to do projects in other countries, of course, we don't necessarily know you guys' laws and publishings and how you work, whereas the U.S. is very, very strict. So essentially what that means is like when we're filming, we have to clear up all of the artwork. It's not just enough to have a location agreement for the restaurant, the hotel, or wherever it is that we're filming. If there is artwork in the background, that has to be cleared. If there are logos, brands, for example, you know, you guys have a lot of sponsorship down here, like most of the bars that, you know, we went into, or have sponsorship from Stag or Carib or, you know, what have you. So we still have to have material releases to clear those brands, else we can't show it on television. And I will say, I'm not 100% sure, because like I said, I'm not familiar on the laws here, but it seems to be a little bit more lax environment here when it comes to that, because, you know, we had to really explain to people, like, no, you can use it, it's fine. And we're like, no, we need you to sign this paper. A verbal commitment just won't do, you know, because, you know, we have to report to our legal, and the only thing they care about is these location releases, material releases being filmed, even if
because it's risk.
Yeah, because there's risk and liability, of course. So we have to manage our liability by making sure that we do our due diligence. Even if there's like a person in the background over there, you need an appearance release, because you have to have permission to show that person on camera. And one of the big things that we do when we have crowds, we do what we call cable cast, and that's just basically we put them up outside of the venue so that people know when they're coming into the venues that they're being filmed, because it's really hard to
it's like a release,
you can't clear Marshall Monday, like, you know, virtually impossible. So you have to put those cable casts up so they know that you're filming.
Okay.
I haven't had a catastrophic situation, but I know of many.
Okay.
And the worst case is very simple. Let's just say someone here came up with a really great rhythm or a really great short film that was put on YouTube and just shot, no identity of who it is, and you can't find who owns it. And you have the powers of Netflix and Google and YouTube and Hulu and CBS, and everybody goes online 10 years later, 20 years later, captures this footage. There's no owner, there's no information, nobody can contact you. There's nothing to link you to it. And they think it's what we call stock footage.
Right.
They think it's just
and then you see.
And then that person sees it on one of the biggest shows to hit the Emmy stage, or the Grammys, or the Oscars, that just concluded yesterday. They see it in a movie as part of the film.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they find a lawyer in Trinidad who's going to call a lawyer in America and says, hey, I created that song. I created that footage. That's mine. And then
playing
what
in the
happens
background in some scene,
exactly. And what happens is, because of the lack of communication, lack of infrastructure, lack of business etiquette taken from the beginning of the process, that person then decides, I'm going to sue that network also.
Yeah.
Well, now you're tied up in court for about 2 years.
And the movie
You're going to lose more. You may get something, but you also have to understand that as a judge, and when you go to law school you learn this, if you did not claim property to this, and they have billions of dollars to spend in legal fees while you don't, what do you end up doing? You end up settling. And now you end up settling for something less, much less than you could have possibly gotten from the beginning if you licensed it, if you gave permission. And I really want to say this to people in Trinidad, is understanding. I appreciate culture, and I appreciate what everybody does, and I appreciate that we want to own what is ours. But understand that everyone who's a star went through what we call paying their dues. And part of it is being able to it's more or less being able to understand that there's some things you have to give away a little bit. I'm not saying don't do it for free, but I am saying some things you have to look at as publicity, some things that you have to look at as an opportunity. And then there's sometimes when that opportunity comes and you build your resume and you build your background and people are calling you and you have agents and you have people wanting to work with you, that's when you start building that network of how much do I really get paid. One of the deterrent factors of coming to Trinidad to film is the fact that people are saying, okay, we want to give you experience. My directors, producers from various productions say, we're going to give you the experience of something we do every day. But are you willing to open your arms to learning that? And are you willing to open your arms to getting that experience? Because while in Trinidad you may be a jack of all trades, and you may be a gaffer, and you may be an AC, and everything, we're telling you that in the business of entertainment, you have to master one.
Yeah.
And
You
master
hold
it
this
well.
cord and you
Hold
carry
it
there.
and run with it, and then be known for it.
Yeah.
And we're trying to give you that opportunity. But if we come at you and we say, we're giving you that opportunity, but you're not able to be flexible, you're not able to be humble, then it deters people from wanting to work with you.
Yeah.
So, these are all things that I think make up the post process, because what happens is if you have that arrogance that I own this music, or I own this painting, or I own this production, or this show, or this idea, and I don't want to let it go, you wouldn't get to that next point. I can almost guarantee you that Mona and they have given up so many ideas, story ideas, and so many opportunities that made it big, and they just started with one little idea part of it. But what happens is you have to learn, okay, let me work with them, let me learn this, and then do like what Steven Spielberg and all of them have done in the past. They started small as PAs.
Right.
They started giving ideas away for free.
Right.
They started working with the idea they had to see how it was developed. Because quite frankly, you give me a script, we're going to develop it into even more. So it still becomes not yours.
Right. So
Right?
Yeah.
Completely. And then as
you
they
you
get
have a- you have a
they
part
get
in a
up.
big thing.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
as
yeah.
they get higher up in the hierarchy, they then become Steven Spielberg. They then become Cherry Bruckheimer. They then become Spike Lee. Because they've gone through the process and the what we call the growing pains of producing and directing. I think if people understand their true struggle and understand the process and respect the process, then you will be a success. There's no doubt.
Excellent.
And I've been very fortunate. I haven't had any disasters when it comes to the clearances and things of that nature. And Sharice went over very well the liability side, going to court, settlement, and things of that nature. But there's also a production side to it, because sometimes people are very uncomfortable about signing location releases and things of that nature up front. But it's really important that we sign those things up front, because if we don't, and then you decide, I don't want to do it, think of all the production dollars that we have spent to be in your space on that particular day. So we have to manage, it's not just the liability and a big lawsuit, it's also the day-to-day of operations where I've hired a crew, I have a team, that could be $20,000 in a day, and you decide at the end of the shoot, I don't want to do this anymore. Not a good look. So we're very proactive in making sure. That was one of the things too that was challenging, just because you guys are starting out and you want to be a part of it, so you're kind of learning it as we go. So we needed this side to be more flexible, because people will want to, let's wait. Are they coming here? Things of that nature. Whereas we are clearing locations like 5, 10, 15 a day, just on a whim, just in case we need to go. So we have an avenue to go. Because sometimes we may shoot first scene in the morning, and we may think we're going to be at a particular place, second scene, only for maybe 20 minutes before the second scene, we need to change. So that's how quickly we move, and things of that nature. But I think as the industry grows here, and the opportunities that you guys create here increase more significantly, you will move at that same speed as well, So it's still growing here. So.
And I'll say, I'll say this: I've done 4 productions here in Trinidad and Tobago, and worked with a number of people in events and planning.
Could you give me an idea of what just to for the
one of my
audience?
first productions is E-Zone. I created E-Zone with Lisa Wick and Imagine Media. And I was 17 years old when I came up with that idea. And Lisa took it and worked with me and worked on the project. It lasted for 5 years. The next project we came back with, and that's how I met Wanda, was with Roger Bob, who's my mentor and my boss right now. I work for Bobcat Films, and we came here to do Girlfriends Getaway 1. Subsequently, we did Girlfriends Getaway 2 in Puerto Rico. And so I can tell you, we did Home Again here as well. And I work very, very closely with a lot of productions that want to come here. And they will call me and say, hey, Sharice, what do we do? And then I start connecting the dots. So I would say that over the years, I want to give a lot of credit to the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Trade, and Film TT, because I've seen this industry grow. I remember when Film TT came to me 5 years ago and said, hey, we're coming to LA, we want to meet some people out there, can you assist us to do a luncheon? And at the time I was just like, okay, I don't know, okay, no problem. Because we have something called AFI, and it's ACM in LA, and the American Film Market, AFM. And that's where countries go and promote themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And
What
Trinidad
they
was
have
never
to
part of
offer,
that.
what they have to offer.
So it was a great opportunity to see TT Film and all of the ministries coming together to actually give that, because the
good.
only island in the Caribbean that did that was Bahamas, not even Jamaica. Jamaica was all about,
But
you
then
know,
people like this,
tourism.
happen.
And don't get me wrong, people have filmed in Jamaica, but Jamaica is not a film-friendly country. The only country that would put themselves out there in a film way was the Bahamas.
Wow.
So,
Interesting to know.
you know, it was really, really interesting to me to see that Trinidad and Tobago invested in the film company and the film company coming out there to do that. And I hope that they're able, as Creative TT, they're able to do that with both fashion and music as well. Because there's no reason our music has gotten Grammys, our fashion has been on Project Runway. There's no reason why we should not be expanding, not only into Trinidad, but all over the world. Dubai, London, Asia, all over the world into those industries.
Yes.
But there needs to be someone who champions that.
Yeah.
And there needs to be someone who goes out there and investment to meet us. There needs to be times that you go to film festivals and you just show up and you meet us independently, because I can tell you, meeting line producers like Wanda, who is the person who hire you. She decides where we go. She decides who we hire. This is the bank. It stops here. Okay. And
Get me in trouble.
you know, I'm trying to get in trouble, but you have to also understand who are the bodies, who hires, who makes the decisions.
Right.
And as Mona said in the press conference, sitting on a network call for me was one of the most interesting calls of my career, having to prove to a network that I've worked with for over 10 years in various capacities that Trinidad and Tobago could be seen in two different lights.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and it
There's
was,
a misconception too, like, you know, because I've been to Trinidad even prior to this, which is why I was so like passionate about making it happen for our team. You know, when you're not from here, people tend to think all of the Caribbean is just beaches
Right.
and resorts and things of that nature. And one of the things that people don't understand about your beautiful country here is, to me, this is the heart of business in the Caribbean. I mean, if I'm incorrect, please
It
correct
is.
me. But people don't know that. I mean, you have your oil, your gas, you have your sugar, you have your asphalt and things of that nature. But entertainment should be a big part of that, because it all kind of works hand in hand together. Politics, entertainment. I always tell people, and you know,
Speak directly into this camera.
politics, entertainment, corporations,
Yes.
you know, it all goes hand in hand together. So it's important that you equally give them all the appropriate attention that they need, because there's no reason why you wouldn't have a major film capital in the Caribbean. And to me personally, from being here, I don't see why not Trinidad.
we need more hotels.
Yeah.
We need more. The Hilton has been an amazing partner for Film Hotel.
Yeah.
For all of us, production-wise, I think even Marshall uses here. Every production I've used this hotel, who has understood what it takes to bring a film crew in when you're bringing in 20 to 30 people. Productions bring in 60 people.
Yeah.
This production for Love and Hip Hop was 45 people.
Wow.
You're talking about rooms for an extended period of time as well. But also, you're talking about meals, catering,
Yes.
having caterers that understand production needs.
Yeah.
You're talking about people, transportation, having the right bus services, security services. You know, Michael Seeley and his team has been doing this for quite some time, working with celebrities in the hair. And I mean, it's been amazing, because for us, I've been able to work with him for the last 5 years, and thankfully, flawlessly.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, it's not an easy job. You know, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has done an amazing job of working with us to make sure that people can move through communities very quickly, because production is money.
Right.
If I'm on set more than 12 hours, I have to pay everyone overtime. So you have to understand.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
I wait for 12.
You know, but that's the reality. Overtime, and it's not a problem to pay overtime, but you know, within reason, because we have budgets, as one has said. We have a resource we have to manage. So it's so many things that needs to be put in place, and I think it's getting there.
Yeah.
And I think that the road system needs to be fixed, because you need to be able to get from one side of the country to the next without so much traffic. Transportation, whether it's by trains and buses and things like that, accessibility.
Yeah. Infrastructure.
Infrastructure needs to happen, because as long as you have that, it becomes so much easier to bring a team in. It becomes so much easier to integrate teams. It becomes so much easier to get more business
and to invest
to
attract investment.
You know, I compare Trinidad to Dubai a little bit, because I said Dubai opened 45 years ago, right? And they had oil too. Right, but they took that oil money and they invested in infrastructure, in transportation, in sound stages. They have one of the largest underwater studios in the world where we film. So there is no reason why I should not come to Trinidad in the Caribbean and be able to shoot like if I'm in Korea, because I can totally go down to Chaguaramas and make it look like the forest, right?
There's
and I should be able to go to Toko on a beach property and make it look like it's a resort. And then I should be able to hang out in the city in various office buildings and make it look like an office setting in a city setting. But, you know, office buildings have to be maintained. You know, hotels have to be maintained. So that infrastructure, and that's employment opportunities, because remember, we come and we pre-scout, and when we pre-scout, we want to see clean windows and great offices and amazing facilities, which allows us to be able to make it look like you're in Atlanta, or make it look like you're in Chicago, because you have to understand how a script works. It may have a city scene, it may have a beach scene, but if I can shoot that whole thing in one city and nobody knows the difference, then we're golden.
It's consistency, continuity,
it helps us. And you, the person, wouldn't even know. I asked how many people knew that Black Panther was shot in Atlanta. How many people knew that Fast and Furious was shot just between Cuba and Atlanta? They were shooting most of the movie in Atlanta. You had no clue that they were in Atlanta.
But the infrastructure is there.
But the infrastructure is there to make it look like. And then you have studios and you have green stages. You know, if you want to do green screen interviews, these things, you got to have these things in place.
So I definitely we're in agreement. I would like to craft that message so that it stays positive. It stays, for me, aspirational, but also a to-do. I want to bring it up to the level of to-do, because it's to think about and to consider, but it's still on the fringe of to-do. And people like yourselves, what was said today, when that makes a headline, it helps push it over, because we're at a point where, you know, we have to look at what's next. And as a country and as individuals who I see as investors, you invest in your time, your resources, and your products and your branding to Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say that I believe that we're close to it. And when, you know, some people are frustrated thinking it's the end, but I think it's the beginning, and you guys can.
I'm totally excited. I'm from Trinidad, so I can tell you I'm totally excited, and I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see how this industry improves.
Country should, to your point, when saying being inspirational, what's clear is there's tons and tons and tons of opportunity here. You have it. You have it right in your backyard. The key is to be willing to, like you said, invest the time, the funds, and roll up your sleeves and simply just do the work. And the one thing that I would say to your students, you know, because you can have everything that we've talked about, and this is just a small portion. I mean, I wish I had a week, you know, that I could spend here and talk to students and things of that nature. The most important thing that I could tell them is to be persistent and be intentional. because that's what it requires to be in this business. Can't ever give up. So like I said, why not Trinidad?